we provide is a pretty simple get off zero initiative that can be conformed to whatever union, whatever they want to do. For example, Santa Monica, when we first started, we did an initiative that was $1 per member. The ETFs weren't even approved yet. There was still a lot of misinformation. The media was overwhelmingly negative on Bitcoin. Every article that you saw, this thing is still, regardless of what people say, their number one source of information. And there's so much out there that often they don't look too deeply in stuff. So the majority of the world learns about Bitcoin through this device. And we know the headlines they see through this device are guy loses passcode to billions of dollars. FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried frauds $3 billion lost. Scammers, Jamie Dimon says it's only for criminals. So they look at these things and they're brainwashed over and over. So we created an initiative that really was built to neutralize fears and get people to take a first step into Bitcoin, but learn about it. Nowadays, unions might be past that. I get a call from a lot of unions that go, hey, we're not interested in like $1 per member. We want to get like a meaningful position. All right. If your members are ready for that, great. So we can build these initiatives. We help them from every step of the process, from messaging, talking to the board of directors, getting rank and file membership involved in the approval process, setting up committees to continue have ongoing conversations, execution of the actual purchase of Bitcoin. We don't exclusively partner with any one, entity, but we educate them to go, hey, what are you thinking? If a union board member calls me and goes, Dom, what exchange should I buy my Bitcoin on? I tell him, hey, you guys aren't ready to buy Bitcoin yet. Let's keep working. Let's keep educating, because you should not be coming to me asking me for that with no information. More, you should be calling me saying, hey, I've looked at this exchange, I like this about it. Let's have a meaningful conversation about facts. So, yeah. And then we help with the custody. If they need help getting in touch with people, we leverage our connections in the network to help them be successful. We do press release stuff to make sure that their community gets on board, and ongoing education and future initiatives from them. So really, like I tell unions, we charge $0. We sell zero product. I talk to them. We have nothing to sell. If they don't want to get off zero, I'm happy, because in 10 years, I'll lay my head on the pillow knowing I did everything I possibly could to onboard workers and wage earners and unions onto this incredible thing. But if they do decide to take this step, we have got their back every step of the way. And we've gone through this with 7, 8 different unions, with more on the way. So, these aren't idea templates. These are working templates that have actually gone through the paces, and most have been passed at over an 85% majority. So that's kind of what we do with the unions and the resources we provide.
Dom, I think that's a really great point. And I think when you look at the products and services that exist out there within the Bitcoin ecosystem, there's such a breadth of them when it comes to, again, the trade-offs of everything. Again, you mentioned some people coming to you saying, hey, we're ready to go buy Bitcoin on an exchange. Well, for us who've been around long enough, we know the inherent risks of that just in its own right. There's additional, again, even just the custody component, further downstream of that, whether it's self-custody, whether it's collaborative custody, whether you're trusting a qualified custodian. But I think all of those obstacles, it sounds like, are things that you kind of have to go through when you're talking to these, various unions and leaders who are ultimately going to be making or proposing a vote on some investment decisions on behalf of their members. So you said about 85% pass yes, but talk to us a little bit more maybe about the interconnectivity of where the pushback does come from, maybe even just outside of, maybe the technical understandings of how do they, figure out this asset.
So here's a good model that I use to break down. And again, you talk about all the different people in the space. I was a union president. I used to get hit up all the time. Hey, we want to make a presentation. You're like, okay, dude, what are you selling? What's the pitch? You're trying to get us on board. We're busy. We have tons of issues of our own. So that's something to overcome. And that's why I created a nonprofit format, because at the time, and it's getting there, but Bitcoin wasn't ready to be adopted in a profit like model, because the minute you come and say, hey, I'm selling a product and I financially benefit from this, they're already writing off Bitcoin. Now that's just another reason, like, oh, so my approach is education based as just a participant in the ecosystem. Where's the pushback come from? Well, in governance, I've found that on any given issue, you have, let's say like a working foundation of 100% of your members, whether it's like a, residents of a city, whether it's members of a union, whether it's the nation as a whole. 80% are in the middle, and they don't really give a shit about anything at all. I mean, maybe I'm not, that's a grotesque, overstatement. They care, but they're not really honing in onto, any given topic unless it interests them. So, if their interest is, they're really into the coffee at the Union House and the coffee measure comes up, they're going to be like, all right, I'm interested on this. I'm going to pay attention. But 80% in the middle on any given topic are not going to care. Then you have 10% that are probably going to land for, and 10% that are going to be vehemently opposed, whether it's on the merit of that or because they just are like, I'm opposed. No, no, no to everything. We know who these folks are. Cool. How do you keep the 80% from getting swayed one way or the other based on emotion instead of fact? Well, you have to neutralize the fears. So if you can imagine a union, especially before the ETF, if we were to propose, putting half of all the money they have saved for their whole organization for the last 10 years into Bitcoin, if you're in that 80% that don't really care, who do you think you're going to listen more to, the positive folks or the people that are like, dude, are we crazy? You're going to put this money into this like whimsical, non-intrinsically backed thing where people lose stuff. And because there's an emotional attachment to that fund, that 80% is going to be swayed. Your measure is going to fail. If you can neutralize the fear, like we've done with the $1 per member, now imagine Glenn and Mason are in the middle, and Brad, you're for, and I'm super negative against. And we're going to all do $1 per member into Bitcoin. And Brad says, this is really cool. I don't know. I think Bitcoin's cool. It'd be fun to learn about this. It's very forward looking. This is awesome. And I go, Glenn, Mason, you got to come in here. Listen, these guys are crazy. They're going to lose all of our money. This is a huge mistake. Like, this it's only for criminals. This thing is a Ponzi scheme. And Glenn and Mason are like, Dom, you seem to be overreacting a little bit. We're talking about, if I misread, I'm not sure I misread. This is $1 per member, right? So are you really approaching me tripping out about $100? It flips the script, and now they're going to ask me, why are you so against it? And they're going to actually be a little more willing to learn. I always use the example of, if we're in a conference room and I set a fire in the corner, do you think people in the conference are going to be calmly learning and go, oh, it's very interesting? No, they're going to be screaming, yelling their head off, running for the door, trampling on each other. So you have to set that table for that environment. And I don't care whether that's for a union, a city, a state, or a nation. You have to set that table and make it to where folks are willing to learn and understand something fact-based.